The Earth's axis has shifted invisibly due to climate change. This is what new data reveals. This is by Peter Dockrell's Science Alert. Humanity's impacts on our planet climate are so profound, we have for decades been unwittingly shifting the very axis upon which Earth spins around. Scientists say it's not just a climate change, it's also, for example, one example is the biggest dam in the world in China, collecting all that water there, causing more weight on that part of the planet, means that it has, by a tiny fraction of a second, caused Earth to spin more slowly. Now, in a new study, researchers examined the phenomenon of true polar wandering, in which the geographic locations of Earth's north and south poles drift with respect to the planet's rotational axis. This mysterious phenomenon is thought to be influenced by a number of factors, and they include, it now seems, the effects of anthropogenic, that is, human-caused, climate change. Lead researcher Sanjian Deng from Geographic Science and Natural Resources in China says faster ice melting under global warming was the most likely cause of the directional change in the polar drift in the 1990s. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. And we know China is one of the worst environmental polluters in the world. Next comes Russia. Now, going back to this, the new study by Den and fellow researchers examined the extent to which changes in terrestrial water storage, or TWS, in recent decades contributed to the amount of true polar wonder recorded in the same time frame. Basically, the terrestrial water storage, TWS, includes changes in our Earth water levels, and these water levels result from glaciers melting as the world gets warmer, in addition to changes also produced by the pumping of underground water from underground reservoirs. The reason these changes are important is because they affect the distribution of mass on Earth, and when you're dealing with a spinning object, whether a spinning top or yo-yo or entire planet revolving in space, the way its mass is distributed in turn affects the way it spins, obviously. Now, scientist Vincent Humphrey from the University of Zurich in Switzerland, also involved in the study, says it brings an interesting piece of evidence to this question. It tells you how strong this mass change is. It's so big that it can change the axis of our Earth. While polar drift is a natural phenomenon that has been observed by scientists for over a century, the level of wonder is not constant, that is polar wonder, evidenced by the pronounced directional change from westwards to eastwards that was first seen in the 1990s. In other words, the poles are going eastward. And according to the team's calculations, based on satellite data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, GRACE for short, and estimates of glacier loss and groundwater pumping going back to the 1980s, the primary driver of polar drift change seen in the 1990s was ice melt due to climate change. The faster ice melting under global warming was the most likely cause of the directional change of the polar drift in the 1990s. The other possible causes are TWS, change in, that's the water storage in the world, change in non-glacial regions due to climate change and unsustainable consumption of groundwater for irrigation and other anthropogenic activities. And while the degree of axis shift experienced so far is estimated to be so slight that humans would not be able to perceive it every day in our lives, the results nonetheless suggest another alarming side effect of humanity's unsustainable usage of Earth's resources, planetary scale mass rearrangement significant enough to measurably affect the revolutions of the world we live upon. And another question is, how much ongoing locked-in ice melting and continued plundering of groundwater resources might impact future axis shifting, and what ramifications could result from that. So we'll have to wait and see. The findings were reported in geophysical research letters, and this is on Science Alert. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.